So
You
I'm gonna start from
you
like
didn't
left to
forgot to
right.
change the title, right?
No, I think I changed it.
Okay.
Hey, let me recheck. Yeah, change it. I did. Okay, okay. Yeah, I changed it. Um, so I'm gonna be starting from left to right, and I'll just go like that from Blackcliff to Favonius to then Royal Spear to Skyward Spine. So I'll be thinking of B tier as meh, like a weapon that you can use, but it won't be that good. And D tier will be, just the absolute worst like weapon that you can use, and S tier will be the best one that you can use. Obviously, most of S tier will be reserved for 5 stars just because of their stupidly high base attacks and how high the substats can go. Like, for example, how high attack percent can go for Vertex Vanquisher. But yeah, okay, so Blackcliff Bowl. Blackcliff Bowl gives crit damage percent as a substat, which is really good because Xiao uses crit rate up as his level up stat that he gets. And Blackcliff Pole will give you, after kill, an attack increase that will increase up to 3 stacks, and each stack is independent of the others. So, Blackcliff is good, but it lacks for boss fights like Stormterror, Child, the Wolf. It's not good for them, but if you can get a lot of kills, like if it's a dungeon that you can get a lot of kills, and then it's really good. In that sense, it's kind of a specialist weapon, like it'll excel in that, but it doesn't work in some cases. But despite that, I'm gonna give it an A tier, just because it has crit damage, which is what Xiao needs really, and just because the passive is kind of good, pretty good. Okay, next up is the Crescent Pike. So the pike gives you physical attack percent. I mean, you should know by now not to get physical damage percent with Xiao, for his ult gets you an animo damage. That cannot be overridden, by the way. The passive of the pike makes it so that any elemental orb slash particles that you pick up gives you a buff on your normal and charge attacks for 20%. The passive is actually kind of strong, but it doesn't include plunge attacks, and it has to include plunge attacks for it to work. That's how the game classifies it. Um, so yeah, because of that, Crescent Pike's gonna be in the D tier. You can use the passive if you make like a brown build, like if you don't plunge spam. But like, if you just don't want to use it, like it has the physical damage percent, you're just not gonna use it. It's just not good. Okay. Next up is Deathmatch. Deathmatch will give you crit rate up. It's the battle pass weapon. Deathmatch makes it so that if you're within the vicinity of 2 opponents or more, you get an attack and defense buff. And if you're within the vicinity of 1 opponent, and then you get an attack buff of 24%. So deathmatch can like, because of the crit rate up, you like if you can get like a crit damage helm, then deathmatch is really good. But if not, then you're gonna be lacking some crit damage percent buffs. So the buff for deathmatch, you can use it anywhere. Like unlike the Blackcliff Ball, it'll work all the time basically. Especially better off for boss fights because there's only like one boss. So it'll always work and you'll always get the 24% attack buff. And really just for that, and because of the fact that you can get it up a few like refinements thanks to getting the battle pass twice, like if you're willing to pay for it, then it's really good. That's why I'm gonna give it an A tier. Okay, on to the B tier. Not the B tier, the Dragon's Bane. The Dragon's Bane gives you elemental mastery, and its passive makes it so that your damage is increased by 20% against enemies affected by Hydro or Pyro. Well, elemental mastery is good, but Xiao isn't gonna be dealing damage with Swirl. Besides, Swirl doesn't have the biggest modifier of all. Like, it doesn't scale well into the late game. You would rather have like Vaporize or Melt or um Like most of those reactions are the ones that deal damage or overload, maybe even. So the fact that swirl doesn't scale that well makes it kind of a meh. And you like even if you have a hydro or pyro support, you don't play Xiao for the elemental reactions. You play him for the plunge spam and the damage that you get from it. Because I don't know if his ult's damage buff applies to swirl, and I'm pretty unsure that, and I don't think it does, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure that it doesn't. And because of that, I'm gonna give Dragon's Bane D tier. So Lithic Spear. Lithic Spear is an upcoming spear in the next patch that's going to give you attack percent as its substat, and as its passive, it's going to give the active character that's using it a buff on crit rate and attack based on how many leeway characters are in your party. So if you get 4 people from like leeway, which might be hard, but if you can do it, then it's going to be really good because it'll give you in total 28% attack, 12% crit rate, besides the attack that he gets as his stat. So it's really good. And I think you may even be able to like refine this further because we don't know if it's going to be a free weapon from the event or if it's going to be a blacksmith weapon, or we don't know how it's going to work. But if it's like easily attainable, because this weapon is just going to like keep scaling up with every refinement that you get. Like the passive is going to keep like scaling up. The 28% and the 12% are just going to keep increasing. Because of that, I'm going to give it an S tier. It's really good. If you can get like 4 people from Leo, it's going to be really good. Although this is based on the leaks that we know of so far, so if the spear does not get released with the stats that I'm telling you about right now, then it's not going to be S tier probably. All right, so now we got the prototype weapon. Initially, I thought this was going to be one of his best weapons, simply because it really worked well because with his E, because Xiao has 2 E charges and the prototype spear can give you a buff on your normal and charge attacks by 8% per stack. So I was thinking, oh, Xiao has 2 E's and this has 2 stacks, which just works well. But the thing is, with plunge spams, it turns out that it won't work for plunge attack damage. Like this buff will not work for plunge attack damage unless the weapon like specifies it. So unless like the prototype weapon's description says for normal charge and plunge attacks, you get this buff. Unless that like it says that, it's not gonna work. And you see the energy recharge is good for Xiao because it's like 70 energy isn't that little, but it's not also too much. But it's still gonna be pretty good if you're gonna be using a land-based build like a auto spam build. It's like I would say it's B tier if you're gonna be attacking from the land, like without plunge spamming. If you're gonna be plunge spamming, it's gonna be C tier, cause like you're only gonna use it for the energy recharge, and it's just not worth it for that. You can get better weapons. Okay, now on to the Favonius Lance. This weapon is all about energy like recharge. Its passive stack gives you energy recharge, and its unique passive also gives you energy recharge for your crits. Because of that, the Favonius Lance is gonna go to D tier. Because yes, Xiao needs energy, but he doesn't need that much energy. Like I don't think any character is gonna need that much energy, to be honest. Maybe Shangling. Like you can even get like I don't know, even the like the NMO MC to get you some damage, use some energy for Xiao. And besides, Xiao has like 2 E's. He's gonna get some energy with those 2 E's, so like it'll work out. And like they also like buffed his ult to get like 70 energy if I remember. Yeah, 70. So like he's not gonna need too much energy. So this weapon is just not gonna go with him well. Next we got the Royal Spear. Initially I thought this was gonna be a pretty good spear for him because it gives him attack percent. It's easily refinable for like via the shop using the Star Glitter. The passive of the Royal Spear is that it gives you crit rate up per attack until you do a crit, and it can go up to 5 stacks. So I thought, hey, that's pretty good. You can keep plunging until you get a crit. So, pretty good. It gives you attack and crit. But the thing is, plunge spams are kind of slow. They don't go out as fast as spear attacks. Like, think of it as like this. Plunge spam's attack speed is the same as a claymore. You know how slow like claymores attack? Imagine getting like stacks with a claymore. So you can do it. It's just not gonna be good, if that makes sense. Aside from that, it's still a pretty good weapon. So I'm gonna give it a B tier because of that. So next up is the Dragon Spine Spear. I hate this weapon. I hate anyone that uses it. Trash tier. It doesn't even get a tier. It's just so bad. If you haven't done it, don't even do the quest for it. It's just a waste of a uh, prototype thingy. Spear prototype, yeah. It's just a waste of it. Just don't do it. Okay, now we're on to the 5 stars. The 5 stars are like naturally gonna be ranked higher than the 4 stars just because of their base stats alone. They can give you more base attack, and their substats can be even stronger than the others. So we got the Vortex Vanquisher first. This is the spear that was with Zhongli's banner, I think. This spear will give you attack percent, and its passive makes it so that your shield strength increases by 20%. And when you score a crit hit, no, scoring any hits on opponents increase your attack by 4% for 8 seconds, with up to max 5 stacks. You can only get a stack for every 0.3 seconds. And while protected by a shield, the attack bonus that you get from each attack is increased by 100%. If you have anyone that can give you crystallized shields, anyone, I mean Noel, I'm talking Ningguang, I'm talking GOMC even. If you can get shields and if you have this weapon, it's crazy good. Just use it. You're gonna get so much attack. It's just gonna be stupid. So I'm gonna put the Vortex Incursion in S tier. See, the thing is, it has a stack-based system, yes, and I just told you that plunge attacks are kind of slow. Yes, that's true. But before like you begin your plunge spams, you can kind of like stay on land and get those stacks. There's probably gonna be like a visual indicator for like how many stacks you have and how many stacks how many you need until you get the max stacks. Like there's probably gonna be some visual indicator for that, so you don't have to worry about counting that. It's gonna be fine, really. So if you have anyone that can give you a shield, this is just the best. This is just a really good spear. Just use it. So now we have the Jade Wing Spear. This is Xiao's spear. It's probably gonna come with him as a weapon banner. I'm not sure. I think it will, but I'm not sure. So the Primordial Jade Wing Spear gives you crit rate percent, and it will also give you on hit attack by 3.2% up to 7 stacks. And again, you can only get a stack per 0.3 seconds. While you have the maximum amount of stacks, your damage dealt is increased by 12%. See, because it says damage dealt, it's also going to apply to plunge attacks. So this is just Xiao's spear. If you can get like a crit damage helmet, this is going to be really good for him. Even if not, it's still going to be really good for him. This is just his spear. It's just his thing. So I'm just going to put it up there at S tier. If I were to like sort it out to what is the best, then it's probably going to be like this for the S tiers. The Jadewing Spear is going to be the best, and then Lithic Spear and Vortex. This depends. Depends because if you can get the Lithic Spear to like refinement 2 or 3, then it's probably going to be better than the Vortex Vanquisher. If not, the Vortex Vanquisher will probably be better. But yeah, the the Lithic Spear scales crazy good with the UI characters and refinements. It's gonna be so good. I tell you, it's gonna be really good. And then for A tiers, I think Deathmatch is gonna be a little bit better than Black Cliff. Oh, you forgot about Skyward Spine. Dragon Spine is bad. It's like it stays there. Skyward Spine, it gives you energy recharge, and its passive is that it increases crit rate by 8% and increases normal attack speed by 12%. Additionally, normal and charge attacks hits on opponents have a 50% chance to trigger a vacuum that deals 40% attack as damage. So this effect can only occur no more than once every 2 seconds. So um, the 2 seconds cooldown is really good because you can use it a lot of times. But the thing is, you're gonna be missing out on the attack speed buff because attack speed does not work on plunge attacks. You will have to, if you want to like use this weapon to its full potential, you should not plunge spam. You should just stay on ground, ult, and just keep autoing on the floor because then you get the vacuum blades. If you plunge, you don't get the vacuum blades. It doesn't work that way. So for plunge spam Xiao, this is really bad, but you can still make it work if you are on the ground. And because of the stupidly high stats that 5 stars get, the energy percent is gonna be pretty good. You won't have to get any like energy percent artifacts and substats for the artifacts. You can just let this spear handle it. But overall, I'd say this is A tier, and I'd say it's kind of worse than Deathmatch and Blackcliff actually. I'd say it's a little bit worse than them. The base attack is high, yes, but these have really good passives that make it up, and also substats. This one has energy recharge, so it's kind of meh. But yeah, that's it for the tier list actually. Dragon Spine can just, bruh, it can just stay here. It's bad. It goes to horny jail. But that's it for the tier list.